Okay, so now that we're recording and I've admitted a few more people into our meeting, I am just going to introduce myself again. I'm Erin Yelland from Kansas State University and K-State Research and Extension, and I specialize in adult development and aging. And today we're going to be talking about simple home modifications for aging in place. And so these are a lot of things that are free, low, medium, or high cost changes that we can encourage middle-aged to older adults to be making so that they can stay in their home for as long as possible. So let's see. Okay. So what we're going to be covering. So the first thing is the lifelong home. This is a term that's been used for aging in place and these simple home modifications that can be used and implemented and why this is important. We're going to talk about some simple home modifications basics. Then we're going to do some interactive stuff. So testing yourself on this or that, what's good and what's bad, looking at different rooms, pictures of different rooms, and we can talk about things that are going well in that room, as well as things that could be updated or modified. And then how do we get started with simple home modifications? And then we'll be talking about some futures for this work. So why simple home modifications? So if you could go to the Poll Everywhere link, I would like you to answer, why is independent living so important to older adults? So I am going to stop sharing that screen. And share my Poll Everywhere. Sometimes you can embed these Poll Everywheres into your PowerPoint, but my computer kept crashing every time I tried to do that. So we're just gonna run it from here. So why is independent living so important? So you have already said quality of life and continue to be able to feel purposeful. It allows them to feel autonomous, having a better quality of life. Most adults, no matter what age, don't want to rely on others to care for them. Feeling of independence versus being a burden on someone. Yeah, these are all things that come out in the literature and of course are things that we hear from older adults in our communities all the time, as well as things that we hear from our own family members. I know I personally learn a lot from my grandparents, and these are things that they have said. And then after my grandpa passed away last year, my grandma is she is set on that she is going to live and stay in their house forever. And having financial stability, yes. Wanting to stay in their own home, they don't want to move anywhere else. That's very common. So the research actually shows that only a very small percentage of older adults are interested in going to independent living facilities. And those are the places where you still live independently and they have a lot of different activities and ways to get together. So it's more of a community type feel, but not many people want to do that. And not many people can afford it, more importantly. But almost nobody, right, has any aspiration to ever enter a nursing home or things like that. So we really want to try and prevent that as much as possible. Okay. So the next thing, I'm going to flip back to our PowerPoint here. So why simple home modifications? Why do we want to do this? And so much of it, again, is related to the things that you've already said in the Poll Everywhere. So the first is that we want to create a comfortable environment for older adults to live in and to thrive in. And so one of the most important aspects when you're starting to look at a home and what can be changed is making sure that that home is maintaining its comfortability and really maintaining that sense of home for the older adult or for the individuals that are living there. You also want it to be familiar to them. Not only do you want that home to maintain that sense of purpose that it's always had for the whoever is living there, but we also want to keep older adults in their home so that they're in that familiar environment and in that place where they've likely lived for a number of years. We also want to give them those feelings of independence, like some of you have already mentioned. That is incredibly important to many adults, no matter your age. Safety and security is huge because they want to feel safe and secure in their home. And oftentimes that safety and security directly comes from being familiar with the space and making it feel like it is your own space and you're comfortable in your own home. Having proximity to family, friends, and community, of course, is incredibly important. We here in Kansas and in many of the states that you're from as well have incredibly rural areas that don't have access to long-term care facilities. And as such, if someone needs to be within a long-term care facility or have that access, many times they have to leave and go out of town, and then they're more separated from their family and friends and community. And it makes it a lot harder to maintain those relationships, maintain that sense of familiarity, I can't talk today, and really that sense of belonging that people have often had before. And last is the cost of alternatives. Someone said financial stability in the Poll Everywhere chat, and this is huge. And those costs of alternatives are very high. So I'm going to stop that, and we're going to go back to our Poll Everywhere, and I will hopefully pop up our next question here. Oh. Okay. So what is the average cost of a shared room in a nursing home in the United States per month? Do you think it's $32.90, $54.12, $73.13, or $97.84? Okay, I've seen our numbers here stop. So actually it is C. So a good chunk of you got it correct. So it's $7,513 a month for a shared room in a nursing home in the United States. Obviously, this can be higher or lower depending on the specific state that you're living in. But for Kansas, where I live, this number is pretty accurate of what it costs per month. This is private pay and does not include any type of insurance that might potentially cover some of the cost. And then if you're looking at a private room or a room that you don't have to share with another person, that cost can jump up a couple $1,000s or even more, depending on where you live. It is incredibly expensive, as we all know, but those numbers keep going up and up every year. So not always does someone have to live in a nursing home, right? So one of the things that we would like to do is keep people in their homes for as long as possible. However, sometimes people need extra assistance in their home. So my next question here is, what is the average cost of homemaker services or a home health aide per month in the United States? $2,000, $3,100, $3,900, or $4,300? The average cost per month. Okay, so the answer, which nobody got correct, was actually $4,300. So the average cost of a homemaker service or a home health aide, which is more commonly what they're called, is $4,300 a month. So you're looking at a substantial cost difference between a nursing home and having someone help you out in your home. And of course, this number will fluctuate based upon how often you have that individual in your home, how often that person needs that assistance. But in general, the average cost is $4,300 a month. So even if we have individuals staying in their home for as long as possible, it can still be incredibly expensive if that individual needs assistance. So hopefully you can continue to see this here, but Genworth is a great organization that really tracks very well the cost of care in the United States for older adults. So you can enter your city, state, or zip code to find exact costs in your area. You can select the cost by time period. These numbers can be really influential depending on who you're speaking with. And then they have the monthly median costs. And of course, the last data was taken in 2019. So you can see here the difference between homemaker services and home health aides, having an adult daycare or assisted living facility, and then the costs in a nursing home facility. But this cost is really one of the main reasons why simple home modifications are so incredibly important. So I'm going to go back to our PowerPoint here. Okay, so the cost of alternatives is huge. And most often this is one of the top reasons that people mention of why they would like to stay in their home for as long as possible. More of those concrete issues that people talk about. Okay, oh, so we did that. We'll go past that. So as I've been saying and indicating, some simple home modifications are one of the easiest ways to improve one's ability to age in place. So as I mentioned earlier, these can be free, low cost, medium cost, or high cost, and these are all most often less expensive alternatives than even a month in a nursing home, for example. So there's a lot of things that can be done to help older adults stay in place for as long as possible. The goal of doing so is to create a safe, livable, and enjoyable space for older adults to thrive. One of the things that I've heard a lot with simple home modifications or older adults staying in their home and wanting to make it livable and safe is that they also want it to be an enjoyable space. Many people often say too that they don't want their space to look like a nursing home facility. So there are new home health aids and assistive devices that have a more modern look that aren't necessarily what our grandparents or parents have had to use in the past. And a lot of people have appreciated that aesthetic because they've been able to keep their house looking a way that they would enjoy without it taking on that nursing home feel. But as I've said before as well, simple home modifications does not always mean that it's going to be incredibly expensive, and it does not always equate a complete renovation of your home. There's a lot of smaller and different things that you can do to make it a safe and livable environment for older adults. So what to look for? This is a slide that we're going to spend a bit of time on before we go into testing ourselves and looking at different pictures. So the first thing to look for is clutter. And this is generally a free alternative that can help an older adult stay in their home, because clutter is so terrible for a lot of different things. The number one thing that clutter can really affect is fall prevention, and it is a huge risk factor for falls in the home. So referring to clutter doesn't mean necessarily a home that has a ton of items in it, that you have a very narrow walk space or things like that, what someone might consider to be hoarding. That does not always mean clutter. It could simply mean that, you know, you have a power cord running across the room that creates a trip hazard. You have things on a nightstand that could be moved elsewhere so that there's room to grab onto that nightstand when you're getting out of the bed. There's a lot of different things that you can consider with clutter. We want to make sure that there's as little clutter as possible on all surfaces as well as on the floor. So clutter is a simple way to get started with your simple home modifications. The next thing to focus on, or area to focus on, are your entryways, your steps, and your flooring. So with entryways, having a zero entry home or having at least one door that you can enter into your home without going up steps is very important, because this means that if you were ever to use a wheelchair or a walker or anything like that, you would be able to enter your home a lot more easily than you would if you had steps. A zero entry home doesn't mean that you have to completely redo the entrance of your home. It can also be something like having a ramp into your home, or installing a simple smaller ramp that goes up if your door has a lip, for example. Just something simple like that. Making sure that you have an easy way to enter your home is very important. Also, look around the area where you're entering your home. Are the stairs in good shape? Is there plenty of lighting? Is there any clutter around there, such as overgrown bushes or weeds or plants? Are there holes in the sidewalk? Are there loose rock if you have pebbles leading up to there? All sorts of things to consider there. Something else to consider with your entryway is, do you have a table or a chair where you could set items that you're carrying into your house so that you can take the time to unlock the door or open the door safely and get those things out of your hands so that you can safely enter your house? With steps, we always want to make sure that steps are as slip-proof as possible. So in the home, having carpeted steps is the best, particularly making sure that that carpet does not have a very busy pattern on it, because those, I'm sure even for younger adults, I know for myself, busy patterns on carpets can confuse me and make my brain go crazy. But so no pattern, so that you're able to easily see where the step ends and where the next one begins. And of course you want a low pile carpet, or that really short carpet that doesn't have that big shag on it, because that's where you're going to be able to get a good amount of grip and not slip. If there's no carpet, for example, in a garage or even in a home, it's very important that you add treads or some non-slip tape. And then, of course, the grab bars. And we'll talk more about this later, but having grab bars on both sides of the stairs is very important, as well as lighting. So with the steps, making sure that you have access to turning on and off the light at both the bottom and the top of the stairs is very important, because if you're going up or you're going down, you want to make sure that you can have that as well lit as possible. With flooring, one of the #1 rules of fall prevention, as well as the simple home modifications, is making sure that throw rugs are out. Throw rugs are a huge cause of trips and falls in homes. And if you do have a rug, you need to make sure that it is incredibly low and is low pile carpeting, and that it has that no slip grip backing. Or you can buy the sheet of sticky stuff that goes underneath a rug to help make it no slip, and so that it'll stay down. You can also buy carpet tape and things like that to keep it down as well. You also want to make sure that you have smooth flooring transitions. So I know in my grandmother's house, after my grandpa died, we noticed that a flooring transition was popped up and was a very easy trip hazard for her. And so we made sure to replace that, so that when she was going from the carpet to the tile, that transition strip was flat and she wouldn't trip over that. And if there's anything in the home that needs to be replaced flooring wise, now's a good time to do it. There's also something to consider with tile floors. So the National Association of Home Builders and other reputable building associations have talked about the appropriate coefficient of friction with floors, which is this really interesting concept that is basically talking about how sticky or slippery a floor is. And they've recommended that you have a coefficient of friction of 0.6 or higher. And when you look at buying new flooring, that information is often available on the packaging, or if you contact the company, so that it'll tell you how likely you are to slip or not on it. If you don't have money to replace the flooring completely, there is non-slip paint that you can buy that increases that coefficient of friction for a much lower cost. So you could put that on tile, on the garage floor, and I think they even make one that you can put as a coat and sealant on wood floors as well. So there's a lot of different things to think about with those entryway steps in flooring. Next are our doorways, and this is a simple one to think about. So we always want our doorways to be a minimum of 36 inches wide, and this is wide enough to allow a wheelchair or a walker easily through. This is ADA compliant. If you don't have money to install completely new doorways that are wide enough, then you can get what is called either swing away or swing clear hinges. So swing away or swing clear hinges. And these are really nifty in that they pull the door. When it opens, it will also pull it away more to the side to widen that doorway and get the door out of the way, which gives you an extra few inches. Sorry, I see we have something in the chat and I can't pop my chat up, of course. So, again, those doorways are very important to consider as well.
Erin, this is
Barb.
Barb.
0.6 is the recommended coefficient friction for flooring. So 0.6 or above is what you want to look for with that. Okay, next is accessibility and reachability. So with accessibility, I'm really talking about, is your surface accessible? For example, in your kitchen, are you able to sit and work at a surface? Many times we don't have that level of surface available. So if a person were to have funds, you could lower a particular part of the countertop so that they could sit and work while they're chopping up vegetables or making dinner and things like that. If not, a lower cost alternative would be to buy a chair or safe bar stool that has a back and is really stable so that a person can sit up and sit down while they're working on preparing their meals and working in the kitchen. Another point of accessibility is, do you have a bedroom, bathroom, and kitchen on the main floor? And if not, what alternatives could you use? For example, if your main floor, which most likely includes a kitchen and a bathroom, but maybe not a bedroom, do you have a pull-out couch or some other place where you could sleep should you become injured or have some sort of surgery where you're not able to go up the stairs and things like that? If you were to become physically immobile and you're using a wheelchair or a walker, would you have a place that's accessible for you to sleep on your main floor? Also with accessibility, we're looking at zero entry tubs and showers, which again can be more on the expensive side to install, but there are less expensive alternatives. So shower chairs or the swing chairs that'll get you over a bathtub. There's a lot of different things that are available now on the market that are a lot less expensive. Also, can you reach your washer and dryer? Is it too low or too high? Building a base for your washer and dryer to sit up on can be relatively inexpensive, and that's something that someone who's relatively handy could easily build. So another simple solution to raise your washer and dryer so that you're not bending over, or if it is too high, removing that base would be a really good option as well. For reachability, one of the things to first be considered is in the kitchen. Oftentimes we have higher cabinets or even lower cabinets where we store things. So one of the easiest things we can do is move our most commonly used items to areas where we don't have to reach or bend down to get them. So are they easily reachable? Also thinking about outlets in the kitchen. Do you have to bend over or really reach to the back of the countertop in the corner or something like that for an outlet? Do you have to walk around the counter and plug it in below? Do you have easily accessible outlets? And this is really important throughout the entire home. Some other things to think about in the kitchen is your microwave. This is a big one, either a microwave or if you have a countertop toaster or things like that. Are they too high? Oftentimes we see in newer homes these days that the microwave is mounted above the stove and you have to reach up in order to grab your hot food out of the microwave. This can be really dangerous, particularly when we're considering older adults who may not be as stable. Maybe you are like my dad and my uncle, and you have Parkinson's disease and you're shaking a lot and you have those tremors. That can be really dangerous for them. My parents moved their microwave down from above the stove and moved it onto the countertop so that my dad could get his food safely out after he spilled some hot tomato soup all over him and got burnt pretty badly. So there's things like that that we really need to consider. Now, it may not mean that you have to completely detach the microwave that's already built in. It could mean something as simple as buying a less expensive microwave to sit on the countertop. Another thing in the bathroom is making sure that your shower head is detachable. So this can help an older adult more easily wash themselves, and if they need to sit down or something like that, then they're not getting that water directly in their face. They're able to manipulate that however they need. So a lot of different things to consider regarding accessibility and reachability. And most of the things with reachability would be completely free or lower cost to implement. The next thing is railings and grab bars, which most of us, I'm sure, know that these are very important. One of the #1 things to think about with railings and grab bars is to make sure that they are 100% installed correctly. They need to be screwed into the studs. If they are simply screwed into the drywall or plaster, it is not guaranteed to hold and most likely will not if you are falling and put your entire weight on that, as well as if you are trying to get up or ease yourself down. Any type of major weight that you're putting on those, they will come crashing down. So you need to make sure that they're absolutely installed correctly. That's the #1 rule there. Now, railings and grab bars, there isn't actually a strong and tried and true height recommendation for grab bars. Because everyone varies in height and your arms vary in length and all these sorts of things, it's really important that you're looking at who is living in the home and what works for them. Generally, for something going from a standing to a seated position, you're looking at 33 to 36 inches off the floor. But again, if the family is tall or short or average height, consider their height when you're thinking about where to install those grab bars. And a simple thing to do would be to have the older adult go into the bathroom, put the toilet lid down, and say, show me where you would grab onto the wall to ease yourself down, and then mark that spot on the wall, and that's where you could install a grab bar. The same thing with getting in and out of the shower, getting in and out of bed, anywhere that a grab bar needs to be installed, look at what's going to work best for that person. Again, with going down the stairs, it needs to be on both sides. My grandma, when she's going down the stairs, she holds on to both sides, and that's how she can easily get down the stairs in a safer way. Looking at the bedroom and the bathroom. It is so common that we think about the bathroom, but we often need to think about the bedroom as well, and helping people get out of bed as safely as possible. The next thing is lighting, and we've talked about this a little bit already with the entryway to your home, as well as stairs being well lit. But some other things that you want to think about are your hallways, your bathroom, and your bedroom. The number one thing that I always recommend are the night lights that you plug into the wall, and they are light censored. I have these all over my house for my kiddos so that if they get up in the middle of the night, they can see where they're going. I am a hard sleeper, and if they get up to go to the bathroom, I rarely ever hear them. So they need to be able to see to get around the house. And I love those night lights, and they're super inexpensive. You can often buy them in bulk to make sure that those are included around your home, in hallways, bedrooms, bathrooms, in the kitchen. If someone gets up and wants a drink or something like that during the night, we want to make sure that that's lit as well. Something to consider as well with lighting. So the traditional light switch that you flip up and down, it is not recommended that we have those in homes for older adults. Instead, it is more recommended that you have a rocker switch, the ones that sort of look like a rectangle that you can move up and down easily, or having the ones that are automatic and motion censored. So they are motion censored, but can also be light censored as well. So if it's starting to get darker in the room and senses you walk in or senses any movement, it'll turn on automatically. A lot of different things that are available for lighting. Grabability. Now, I wasn't sure if this is a word I made up or not. Merriam-Webster and PowerPoint tells me it is, but the internet tells me it isn't. So grabability is what I'm calling it, because we're thinking about how easily you can grab things in your home. So one thing I tell people to think about, if you have ever participated or delivered the Gray for a Day curriculum that's offered through State Research and Extension, you will know that we tape popsicle sticks to the backs of our fingers to simulate severe arthritis. So if you were to do that, imagine that you have popsicle sticks taped to your fingers, and you were to go around your home, what could you not open? There's most likely a lot of different things. So the knobs, the round knobs on kitchen cabinets are not recommended. Instead, the D-shaped handles are recommended so that you can easily open those up without having to grab them. The other thing is the round doorknobs. Those can be incredibly difficult to grab, especially once we have reduced tactile responses and those fine motor skills. As well as if you have arthritis. And we know a lot of older adults get arthritis, and it can be incredibly hard to grab things. Also, so instead of having the round doorknobs, we're looking at the lever handles that you would want there. As well as with your sinks. A lot of older homes have the round sink knobs to turn on the water. We also want lever handles there as well. But one of the things with grabability, reachability, accessibility, lighting is that we want things to be as automated as possible. And this doesn't mean having a smart home or getting all of these fancy technology things implemented in a home. If you have the money, that's great, but most of us don't. So really making sure that those lights come on automatically with those simple night lights. Making sure that as much as possible is automatic. So having the touch faucets and things like that can be really important and valuable. The last one is basic safety. One of the first things I noticed, I recently moved, and when I got here, there weren't house numbers anywhere visible on the house or on the mailbox. And my dad is an ex-fire chief. He's retired now. And I have this embedded in my brain. So the first thing I did, one of the first things I did was I went to the store and got the reflective numbers to put on the mailbox. We know that older adults are more likely to have to call for an ambulance. So would an ambulance or firefighter or whatever be able to find the home easily? That is an easy thing to look for. Both during the day and during the night are both important. Having a easily accessible fire extinguisher, especially in the kitchen, making sure that the smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors are installed and working properly. If an older adult is hard of hearing, you can get the ones that will flash. And if an older adult is blind, you can also get the ones that'll make a lot of different noises and high pitch, lower pitch. It'll talk to you. There's a lot of different options for making sure that those with declining sensory issues are aware of when an alarm is going off. Another big one is the water heater, making sure that that is 120 degrees or lower. As well as having access to flashlights if the power were to go out. Making sure that you have flashlights in the most commonly used places in the home, particularly thinking about where you're most likely to be at night. So in the living room or in the bedroom. So these are some of the basics that we want to be thinking about. I know that it's a lot. I know that it's overwhelming, but there's a lot of different resources that can help you. And one of the things that I'll talk about later that we recommend is going through a home with multiple people so that everyone has a fresh perspective and is looking at the home in different ways and identifying things that could be improved. So this or that. Oh, I didn't realize there were transitions on these pictures. So ignore that. So what if I could have a volunteer to talk about this slide and tell us which option would be best for an older adult between the tops and the bottom pictures and why, that would be great. So do I have a volunteer? And you can unmute yourself.
Hello, this is Diana. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so the doorknob, it would be the one at the bottom because it is the lever and would not require them to have to grip something like the round doorknob at the top. For the kitchen cabinets, it would be the bottom one. Again, the C handle is much easier to access, and especially for someone who has arthritis or has trouble gripping doorknobs. And then the carpet would be the one on the bottom because it has the no grid and no slip protector underneath it, which I have to say I like that myself, even at home. That those carpets really are a lot slicker than you think, especially on a wood floor.
Yes. So everyone give Diana a round of applause, a virtual round of applause. Good job, Diana. That's exactly right. Okay, so the next one, who wants to take this one and tell us why we do not want the stairs on the left?
Hi, my name is Virginia. You wouldn't want the stairs on the left because they don't have the railings on both sides to grab on.
Yes. And I personally would probably die on those stairs. So yes, they are really interesting and modern stairs, but of course they have no safety feature whatsoever. And then on the right-hand side, we're looking at carpeted stairs. They have railings on both sides. It appears to be well lit. These are all the things that we want to consider. So thank you for that. Round of applause. Oh. Okay, The next one here. Does someone want to tell me about these two different entryways? And what's good about the left?
This
I'll
is
do this.
Tara. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Ethel.
That's fine, Tara. The one on the left, you definitely have curb appeal for one thing, but you have someplace you can sit. You can put your groceries or whatever there. It looks like it's maybe easy walking up to it in a low threshold.
Mm-hmm.
The other one, I wouldn't even want that one. If you got up to your door, I'd be afraid I'd fall off. But the winding staircase, oh my God, that would be awful.
Yes, I agree, Ethel. Round of applause for Ethel.
Also, Erin, you have a chat question.
Oh, okay. Yes, good question, Heidi. And thank you, Ethel, for pointing that out. The smallest D-shaped cabinet handle for easier grabbing, is it simply the person's hand size preference? I would say yes. Some of the D-shaped handles can be pretty small, but most of the time you'd be able to at least slip a few fingers in there to grab it without actually having to fully grab onto it. But of course, the wider, the better. But I think having that D-shaped handle over a knob would always be more beneficial. So yes, what Ethel said with this picture, obviously the one on the right and the one that I had of the stairs on the last time were pretty dramatic of why we want to have those. But Ethel pointed out a lot of really good things on the left one. So a lot of good things to think about there. The one thing, if somebody was in a wheelchair or walker, we might want to remove that entryway rug out there. But also it could be beneficial if the hard floor is the first thing that you're stepping onto when you enter the door. I know my front door won't open even with a super low pile rug at the front. So if that's the case there, then it might be more beneficial than not. So that's just an example of why you really want to consider the individuality of the home and the space in general. Okay, so the next thing I want to do here, so here the next few slides are pictures of different rooms. And if you've ever used Annotate on your Zoom, you can select to do that. So you at the top would press the Annotate button and you should be able to draw on the slide. Okay, so I'm gonna get mine up and you can unmute yourselves and share what you think could be fixed about this room, as well as what you think is going well. So I will show you the Annotate first. So one of the things that we've talked about a lot are those knob cabinet pulls. So I will I circled that in a not pretty way, but you can either try the Annotate or you can unmute yourself and tell us what you would change or what's going well.
This is Heidi. Yep. I was just going to say, you got the microwave and then the other appliance kind of below there on another shelf. And then additionally, the refrigerator sticks out in a clear pass walking within the kitchen and through the next doorway.
This is Amanda. The rug, yes, somebody just pointed that out, but it kind of, to point out a positive, it kind of looks like they do have a work surface that's lower. I don't know if that's a cart or if it's like a modified counter. I'm not sure, but I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And good point on the refrigerator sticking out as well. And then the rug, which was pointed out, of course, that's something to consider. And it looks like it's a higher pile rug. Perhaps something lower would be a better option. And then, yes, someone put a star at the faucet. So it does have that lever handle that we would be looking for. And something else to consider as well, there's lots of lighting in the room with the 3 can lights on the top, a nice window, and what I would assume to be a nice open door with lots of light coming in there. You can see the transition here. Yeah, and that was exactly what my grandma's transition strip looked like that was coming up. And so making sure that those are good and secured to the floor. Kathy, is that what you were pointing out?
Yes, it was.
Okay. All right. Great
I
job.
found that super beneficial. We're doing this right now with my parents. They just moved 2 weeks ago and downsized, and they actually hired a contractor, and this is exactly what he did, was to go in, an ADA contractor, and circled all these things that need to be fixed. So this is awesome.
Great. Yeah, so there's a lot of folks that will that are certified in this, and there's actually certified aging in place specialists. They're called CAPS, and they will do the same exact thing and come in. Unfortunately, they are most often in urban areas, but having home builders who specialize in working with older adults, and I keep saying older adults, but really it's not only them, it's also middle-aged adults, people who are thinking about retiring. Getting these things done as early as possible is really important. So thank you for sharing that. Okay, let's see. I think I need to turn that off. I have too many things going on my screen at once. Okay, then I need to clear it. Okay, but my toolbar won't pop up. Technology is so fun. Okay, so here, looking at this bathroom, what are your thoughts here? And I will try and get my toolbar to pop up. There it goes. Okay. Clear all. There we go. So now we can draw on this, and you can unmute yourselves and tell us what you think there. Yes, the toilet paper roll. I don't even think I could turn around and reach that very well. Yes, the tub. It appears to have that detachable shower head or bath, water head, I guess we could call it. Okay, someone circled the tile. Tell us why you circled that.
The pattern is very distracting.
Yes. And obviously the picture doesn't include the floor, but given that that tile is everywhere else, I'm going to assume that it's likely on the floor and could be very distracting. Someone circled that, the thing on the right-hand side. Tell us what you see there.
That was B, and I thought that might be a grab bar, which is not really very convenient probably for most people, although it's better than not having one at all. And I also circled the knobs on the faucet because they're knobs and not the little handle things.
Good eyes. Yeah, that's a really great point. And it looks like there might even be another grab spot on the other side of the tub as well, but like you said, I mean, it's better than having nothing, but it also seems like it might be difficult to really grab onto. Ethel, you pointed out something.
I did. I think that would be extremely hard to lift that lid if you didn't have very good working hands, let's put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. In the way that it's built, you would really have to be able to slide your hand underneath of it, or just the way it is, because I know most toilets now have the lid farther out, and maybe even with a much wider lip where you're able to grab it and put the lid up.
I would also say the bathtub, I was going to mark it because it's so deep, it looks like. it'd be hard to get in and out of.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And it doesn't, I mean, it could be the tile and everything, but the room just doesn't seem very bright. Obviously, you don't want clear, wide open windows in your bathroom, but I mean, they appear to be not letting a whole lot of light through. And then the curtains as well would block out a lot of light. So a lot of things to consider in there. And
I think on the curtains too, if that would be something that they grab if you would fall, you're also going to pull down a curtain bar and cause a potential head injury.
yeah, that's a really good point. See, this is exactly why having more than one brain is really important with these things, because I didn't think about that. And that's a really excellent point. That's would easily be something, if I was starting to fall, you know, your immediate instinct is to grab onto something, and that would not be a good thing to grab onto. Really good point. Okay, so obviously that was an older bathroom. The next one I grabbed a picture of was a more modern bathroom. Now let's talk about what's going on with this one. As my 3-year-old sings in the background. Yes, so I see someone circled. Let's start with the faucet over on the left-hand side.
The faucet handles aren't even present. It could be a touch one, but it would be unclear from the picture.
Yeah, I agree. We're not entirely sure what it is, but pointing it out is really important because, yeah, I'm not even sure. I mean, obviously we can't see, but if you don't know how to work it, or if it's difficult, it's challenging. So pointing out the rug, again, that's a higher pile rug, could be easily tripped on. We're unable to see if it has that sticky back or not.
Erin, can you clarify with the fact that the vanity isn't touching the floor if they were blind or had sight issues or were using a sightseeing stick, that would probably be problematic? I would assume they'd run into it.
Yes, I absolutely agree with you. So if someone was using more of those tactile tools, such as the walking stick, you wouldn't be able to see that until you ran into it. That is also not something that would be incredibly wheelchair or walker efficient as well. And yeah, there's a lot of different things to consider with that. But yeah, I can imagine, even since it doesn't have that bottom, and granted the rug is there, but if you slipped, there's nothing there to stop you from going underneath of that and starting to fall under. So what is the blue circle on the top of the vanity?
It looks to me like that might be a medicine cabinet, and it seems to be very high.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And I can't tell for sure, but you know, we can't tell the depth of that countertop and how much it would take to reach over to it, but then also how high it is. Someone circled the shelves above the bathtub.
That was me, Erin. And it's like to try and reach those, it's kind of hard to tell by the picture, but it doesn't look like there's much space between the wall and the tub. So they would probably have to be reaching over the tub to get to any of the items on the shelves.
Yeah, I agree. And then, of course, the bathtub itself, I would probably fall out trying to get out of that thing. And why did someone circle the little bench there?
That was me, Erin. It's not fixed to the ground. So there again, it could be a trip hazard, getting in and out of the bathtub. There again, if we're talking about falling and we go to grab something, it's not going to be stationary. So lots of different fall hazards there.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. So a lot of different things, even in the more modern bathrooms versus older bathrooms, there's a lot of different accessibility issues and things that we need to consider. Now I need, okay, my little toolbar keeps popping off even though I told it to stay. Come on. Okay, well. So next I had some pictures of some bedrooms, and I realized that we're cutting close on time here. So I will just mention a few things like the walking space as I try to get these circles away. There's not a whole lot of space to walk in the room. The lighting looks a little dim. There's a lot of stuff on the nightstand. It seems like there might be some good space to grab, but really the less stuff that you have on the nightstand, the better. So perhaps getting rid of the flowers, opting for a smaller phone and a smaller lamp so that you have more of that easy space to grab onto would be a good idea. There we go, my toolbar decided to pop back up. So again, really looking at the space. Okay. All right, so then looking at the more modern bedroom, the bedding is really pretty, but obviously a very big trip hazard and slip hazard there. The bed is also really low. Imagine trying to get in and out of that bed. Again, a lot of decorative things on the side table that we would want to consider. It seems like it has really great lighting, but there's really no lamps or anything like that that would light the space at night. Last up, and I will invite your participation on this one again, looking at the front of the home, what do you think could be fixed here? Yeah, so the stairs, the first big thing that's really noticeable. The sidewalk, so I'm assuming whoever circled that, you're looking at that sort of unevenness in the sidewalk, and it looks like there's a crack.
The porch is clean, but it would be nice to have something, a bench or something that they could set things down, or they could sit down if they needed to.
Yeah. Really good point. Someone circled this little wall on the right, the retaining wall.
Definitely a trip hazard with the uneven ground there. And I will tell you from recent personal experience, it doesn't feel good when you hit the ground.
I understand that.
No handrail on either side of the stairs itself and a large number of stairs.
Yeah, and I think from my perspective, they also look pretty steep, and I'm not sure again what type of paint or if there's like a no slip tread or anything like that, but they look like they could be pretty slippery as well. And then the lighting, someone just circled. That's a really pretty light, but it doesn't look like it's giving off a whole lot of illumination. There could be some more lights there, as well as lights leading up to the stairs. What might be a good idea, but definitely some things that can be improved. And I think this is, I mean, obviously the railings on the stairs is a big one, but this might be an area of the home that people don't think about because they're thinking more inside, and it can be challenging to think about the outside of the home and what could potentially be fixed there. The other thing that I noticed, and I don't see any house numbers, and again, it could be on a mailbox or something like that, but also something to consider. I think the more house numbers you have, if you have one on the home as well as, one on each side of a mailbox or something like that, the better. Okay. Okay, so the last couple of slides. So where do you start? I know this can be incredibly overwhelming, but like one of you shared earlier, going through the space with other people is incredibly beneficial. So assess your space with a friend or professional, use a checklist, or focus on one room at a time and make your list. It's often valuable to go through the home more than once as well. There's a lot of different things that you can use. It's also beneficial if you bring in someone who's maybe not spent a whole lot of time in your home that you trust to help give you advice. Maybe a friend or a neighbor that you more often meet at their home, or you go out, or things like that. Someone who's not as familiar might also be able to bring a fresh eye. I also recommend starting with the free and easy tasks, because we don't want people to get overwhelmed. If you say that, oh, we need to do this big project that's really expensive, that can be incredibly overwhelming, and then you're less likely to move forward with those other tasks as well. And I relate that to, some of the paying off your debt options. A lot of times it's recommended that you start with the small and easy ones first, so you get that momentum going. And it's the same thing with these types of projects as well. So start with those free and easy, and then work your way up. And as we've mentioned before, start early. We don't want to be waiting until an older adult has a slip, trip, or fall, until they have some sort of medical emergency, and then all of a sudden we need to rush to make the home as safe as possible for them. So, starting these things when you're younger, when you're middle-aged, it's never too early. And remember too, even for myself, I could have an accident at any time. Something could happen where I would need my space to be more accessible. So even thinking about it in your younger years can be really valuable as well. So we have been working on a simple home modification complete curriculum package that will be offered through K-State Research and Extension. So I encourage you to check back with me. You can always email me. It's Erin Yelland at ksu.edu. You can check our NCRAN website, as we always post curricula on there, and there's currently a lot of different curricula that you can access on our website, mostly for free. But do be looking forward to that coming. Because of COVID and people working from home, it hasn't been completely through the publications and making it pretty process. So that will be coming soon. Our next webinar, I believe we might have had a calendar switch, but we do offer a webinar the first Friday of the month. We might have the Elder Family Financial Exploitation webinar, but I know that Barb might be able to correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, we've had to do a switch because of change in schedules. So next month, it'll be Dr. Marion Liu from Purdue University School of Nursing.
Perfect. Thank you, Barb. I thought there was a switch, but I couldn't find it in writing that easily. So Dr. Marlene Stung then, she will be presenting in December. Yes, okay, on elder family financial exploitation. But the next several webinars that we have for the rest of the year will be wonderful, and I look forward to them.
Erin, sorry to interrupt, because I just spoke with Dr. Liu this morning, and so her title is going to be Elder Mistreatment Victims During the COVID-19 Pandemic. And it'll be kind of a preview of actually a current study that she's doing right now with Adult Protective Services.
Wonderful. Well, that's incredibly timely and relevant. Great. Well, look forward to that. And then last but not least, we always ask that you please complete an evaluation of the webinar if you're able. It is literally about 5 questions long and will take you about a minute. So you can go to tinyurl.com/ncran survey. And again, we always want you to be checking out our resources. Reach out to any of the NCRAN members. You can find all of that information on ncran.org. If you have any questions for me and the simple home modification stuff, feel free to send me an email anytime. And I am available to answer those questions. Thank you for joining us today and hanging on for a little extra. And I appreciate you guys attending and look forward to seeing you next month.